Are you confident that this case will be solved?
No.
She was found slumped over the passenger side. She had absolutely been brutalized with a sharp instrument, multiple stabbing injuries. Now, she had over 20 stab injuries, and a lot of these were centered around her face.
The reality is we're not here on a whim. We're here to confirm what we already know. I already collected some DNA from you that you got rid of before. How would we get your DNA at the crime scene there, Jerry?
I don't know. Test it, see if it is.
Did you murder someone that night, Jerry?
Test the DNA.
On a cold December night in 1979, the city of Cedar Rapids, Iowa was shaken to its core. The temperature had dropped below freezing, and a light snow was falling, creating a deceptively peaceful scene that belied the horror about to unfold. 18-year-old Michelle Martinko, a vibrant high school senior with a promising future, vanished without a trace. What began as a routine shopping trip to Westdale Mall would soon become one of the most haunting cold cases in Iowa's history. Michelle had attended a school choir banquet earlier that evening at the Sheraton Inn. Her fellow choir members later recalled her excitement about the upcoming holidays and her plans to attend Iowa State University the following year. Dressed in a stylish black dress, her blonde hair perfectly coiffed, she epitomized the all-American teenager of the late 1970s. After the banquet, she drove her family's Buick to the mall to pick up a winter coat her mother had put on layaway. It was supposed to be a quick errand, a mundane task during the busy holiday season. But Michelle never returned home. As the night wore on, her family grew increasingly worried. Her parents, Janet and Albert Martinko, tried to reassure themselves that she had simply lost track of time or met up with friends. But as midnight approached and there was still no sign of Michelle, their concern turned to panic. They called the police, initiating a search that would soon turn into a nightmare. In the early hours of December 20th, police made a grim discovery that would haunt Cedar Rapids for decades. Michelle's body was found in her car, parked in the northeast section of the Westdale Mall parking lot. The scene was horrific. She had been brutally stabbed 29 times. The savage nature of the attack suggested a crime of passion, but investigators were baffled. Who could harbor such rage against this well-liked teenager? The crime scene painted a chilling picture. Blood spattered the interior of the car, a silent testament to the violence that had occurred. Forensic experts meticulously examined every inch of the vehicle, uncovering crucial evidence. Rubber glove impressions were found both inside and outside the vehicle, hinting at a killer who came prepared. This detail suggested premeditation, contradicting the initial theory of a crime of passion. Michelle had fought for her life, her hands bearing defensive wounds, but in the end, her struggle was in vain. As days turned to weeks, and weeks to months, the case grew cold. The initial flurry of activity, interviews with Michelle's friends and acquaintances, forensic analyses, public appeals for information, gradually slowed. Suspects were questioned and cleared. Andy Seidel, Michelle's ex-boyfriend, lived under a cloud of suspicion for years before being exonerated. The community was on edge, wondering if a killer walked among them. For nearly 4 decades, the case remained unsolved, but Michelle's memory never faded. Her sister, Janelle Stonebreaker, kept the flame of hope alive, believing that one day, justice would be served. Stonebreaker worked tirelessly to keep Michelle's case in the public eye, giving interviews and pushing for new investigations as forensic technology advanced. The real breakthrough came when investigators turned to genetic genealogy databases. By comparing the killer's DNA markers with profiles uploaded by the public to GED Match, they narrowed down the suspect pool. This led them to a surprising connection: Brandy Jennings, a distant relative of Jerry Burns who had uploaded her DNA out of curiosity about her family history. With Burns now in their sights, investigators needed to confirm their suspicions. In a scene straight out of a spy thriller, they covertly collected Burns' DNA from a soda straw he discarded at a pizza ranch in Manchester, Iowa. The results were definitive: a match to the blood found at the crime scene 39 years earlier. Burns' DNA also matched DNA found on the gearshift of Martinko's car at the crime scene. On December 19, 2018, exactly 39 years after Martinko's murder, investigators finally interviewed Burns. They hoped for a breakthrough in the decades-old case. However, Burns proved to be uncooperative. He consistently denied knowing Michelle Martinko or having any involvement in her death. When confronted with the DNA evidence, Burns repeatedly stated, "Test it. See if it is."
Did you murder someone that night, Jerry?
Test the DNA.
Jerry.
Test the DNA.
Offering no further explanation, he claimed no memory of being at the mall on the night of the murder, yet curiously added, "If I was there, I don't know." During transport to the police station, Burns made an unexplained reference to blacking out. Throughout the interrogation, Burns remained unnervingly calm, showing no emotion even when directly accused of the crime. His demeanor and evasive responses left investigators convinced they were dealing with a man who had harbored a dark secret for nearly 4 decades, rather than someone wrongly accused. But the case against Burns wasn't just about DNA. Investigators uncovered disturbing internet search history on Burns's work computer, revealing a dark obsession with violent sexual content involving blonde women, a profile matching Michelle Martinko. This evidence, while from decades after the crime, painted a picture of a man with deeply troubling fantasies. The trial exposed Burns's dual nature. To the outside world, he was a successful businessman with no criminal record, but the evidence revealed a dark side hidden for decades. The jury took just 3 hours to find him guilty, bringing a measure of closure to a case that had haunted Cedar Rapids for generations. On August 7, 2020, Jerry Lynn Burns received his sentence. Judge Faye Hoover Grinde delivered the verdict: life in prison without the possibility of parole. This was the mandatory sentence for first-degree murder in Iowa. Before imposing the sentence, the judge denied Burns's request for a new trial, ensuring that the man who had evaded justice for so long would spend the rest of his days behind bars. For Michelle Martinko's family and the community, this sentence marked the end of a long, painful chapter and brought a measure of justice for a crime that had haunted Cedar Rapids for generations. As we reflect on this haunting case, we're left to wonder how many other killers are out there, thinking they've escaped justice. In the world of true crime, the passage of time doesn't guarantee safety. It merely prolongs the inevitable day of reckoning.